What's going on with you, buddy?
I glitched.
Apparently,
Sorry. Yeah, it happens sometimes.
your eyes were
I'm,
huge.
I have giant, creepy eyes. I'm surprised you don't see the reflections in the whites of my eyes in your windows at night. But
That may be
how
why
are you?
most people don't watch our YouTube videos.
What? I'm totally fine to look
They're
at.
repelled by you.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going?
Good. I'm glad I stopped myself. I almost said some way worse things. I'm good, man.
Yeah,
It's been a good day. The weather's nice in upstate New York finally, so I'm pretty psyched on that.
it's a beautiful
Uh,
day here in Texas.
it is a nice spend to choose it in my basement with you.
Yes, that's it's kind of creepy, but sure.
Is it?
Basements are always creepy. Basements get a bad rap. I think basements are actually awesome.
I don't know, man. I remember being a little kid and playing drums, and like just it was more of getting down the basement steps because the back was open, and I just watched Child's Play, and I'm like, as long as I can get down them without a doll cutting my Achilles tendons before I can get to my drums, I'm good. But
Yeah,
I definitely set it up, my kid up with my back to the wall so I could see the whole basement. It's so funny that shit, man. And then as an adult, you still get those little like every once in a while you kind of get a little freaked out, like something's behind you, you know?
oh, dude, you run up the stairs.
I my
I do.
I'm kind of at that point now where I'm like, you know what, dude? If this ghost is gonna get me, I'm just fucking done. I'm not running up the stairs anymore.
Yeah, I just always figured I was just way faster. But as I age, I'm a lot slower, so I'm afraid he'll get me at
Oh,
some
you meant
point.
as a kid? Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm
Like
just like,
run away
ugh,
from the ghost that's gonna get you, you know?
they could just go through the wall. It seems pointless, you know?
Oh, unless it's like a goblin or something. They can go through walls. Did you ever see a cat's eye? The
A
cat's eye?
goblin,
Yeah, the little goblin
goblin.
that would come through the wall.
No, I remember watching Ghoulies for the first time and not being able to shit for like a month.
Oh yeah, I remember the cover of the VHS tape had that green monster coming out of the toilet.
Yep.
Yeah. Every time I went to Blockbuster Video or whatever little video place we went to, it was always there.
Yes. And since you brought up toilets, our guest for tonight's kidding.
He did an interview from his toilet. No,
He was
I'm
on
just
a
kidding.
throne. He was on a throne.
He
He was
was
just
on a throne. That's true.
so yeah, dude. Fucking Johnny Cruz of Limp and Sam I Am. And I can't wait to have him back for another one to talk about his short time playing with Common Rider
Dude,
too.
he
So
was
that'll
he
be cool. But
was such a cool guy to talk to, and he did the whole interview from his drums, which I thought was really cool.
yeah, and he's become a friend of the show, a friend of us, and
He's become our
it's so
friend.
cool to just kind of stay in contact. And I love his group text. What's up, fellas,
I
boys?
know.
Yeah, it's been cool. But yeah, dude. I mean, that's the biggest part of this doing this thing is all the awesome people we get to meet.
Yeah, and honestly, I hope that we inspired Limp to get back together with this interview. How amazing would that be?
It'll be cool. I'm going to go ahead and assume that wherever they play, it's nowhere near me. But if they play near you, we got a couch, so I'll be there.
I'll go to them. I'm not afraid to travel.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. But no, it was nice of like just kind of getting to hear his perspective on the whole band and what happened with it, and you know, yeah, it's a good episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's an awesome guy, and I think if you've never heard of Limp, it's a good time to get to know them.
Where would you say start?
Well, I started with was it their second album? It wasn't Guitarded. It was Poppin' Disorderly.
I thought that was the first one.
Is that the first one?
I thought it went. I thought it went pop.
I thought Guitarded
Guitarded
was
and
first.
well, either way.
Yeah,
They're
shows
good,
our
man.
research.
It's fun. It's just fun melodic music, and I
Yeah.
just love how like driving his drumming is, and it kind of adds like a bit of an aggression to a more like poppier style stuff, which I love. So
I was thinking Poppin' Disorderly was second because it sounds better.
wow. So you think the first one sounds like shit?
I think it's produced very well.
Yeah, dude, those records are great. And I'm a big fan of the third one. It didn't get as much love
Yeah.
from the audience. Which was this the cover? It's like one of those. It was good.
I don't know. No, you're right. Poppin' Disorderly was 97 and Guitarded was 99.
I don't want to say I'm right, Matt, but
You are absolutely correct. I was wrong.
That's twice in one day, dude. I'm gonna fucking roll.
I got them mixed up. But
Sorry.
I think, you know, you always kind of, when you hear, you know, two albums by the same band and when one sounds a lot better, to me, it's always like, oh, well, you know, that's what always happened to my bands. It was like the first one didn't sound as great, and then the second one sounded way better.
Yeah.
So it threw me off.
Yeah. My first band, all the cymbal hits just sound like someone ripping corduroy. It's so harsh, dude. It's brutal. But anyways, enough about our band. Let's give it up for Johnny Cruz, man. Golf claps. It was just great. And again, man, it was nice making a buddy and someone to talk about drum shit too. Like,
yeah,
outside
I think
of the podcast.
he'll be a forever friend.
Oh yeah, yeah. And again, man, psyched to have him back for number 2. And then our sponsor. Got a little sponsor.
Yeah, Rhythm and Roast Coffee Company.
It's coffee that you drink.
It is. Goes in your mouth. That's their slogan. I don't care if they like it or not. That's their slogan.
I'm sure they don't like it.
Rhythmroast.com is the website.
With the code Punk Rock Drummers, you get a little 10% discount.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't like a little discount? And then our unofficial sponsor, who are going to bully into sponsoring us, is
Sleeved Washers.
Rhino.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, dude?
Every episode.
But everyone we've had on so far has known Rhino.
Oh, so Rhino said every guest gets a bag of sleeve washers.
Oh, sweet.
So I've got some mailing to do.
Yes, you do.
Put them on your drums, make them sound great. Keep them in tune, keep rattle down, keep the lugs from moving. Awesome product.
Shit, yeah. Well, on that note,
Sleevewashers.com.
Oh, yes, sleevewashers.com. And I guess on that note, we'll roll right in. So this is episode
5.
4. 5? We're on 5 already?
Wait. Yes, we've done 4.
Oh, wow. Look how I started.
Episode 5.
Give me a minute. Let me count this on my fingers like an adult. Episode 5, Punk Rock Drummers Podcast. Mr. Johnny Cruz, I hope you enjoy it.
All right, let's do it.
Guys, can you hear me?
Hey.
Hey.
What's happening?
Hey, man. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm Matt.
What's up, Matt? What's
Not
up,
a whole lot.
How are you?
Good.
Okay.
Good, man. Okay, so you can hear me and everything?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We're good.
All right. That's awesome.
Man, I love those drums back there. What are those?
Those are CNCs.
Oh, okay.
I custom ordered them, like, I don't know, several years ago. What I used to have was an AOT. I mean, I still have it, but it was in a fire.
Oh,
So,
wow.
When that happened, I still have them. They're awesome, dude. They're the John Bonham kit or Dave Grohl kind of copy. Like, I have a 13, 16, and 18, and I use the 18 on the left side. I kind of was going for it for a while with that. I like to have a floor tom on the left side. I do like some kind of double bass shit with it. But, how does this look? Should I?
You look great.
The camera looks. There's enough room. I'm not like blocking.
No, you look good.
You're in frame. You're in frame. Pretty
Yeah,
well.
you're framed up perfectly.
Okay, cool. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was saying I remember Yuri from MXPX back in the '90s played an AOT, and he taped it off to where it said Yuri. I thought that was clever.
Dude, those drums are awesome.
Can you even find them anymore? I mean, I don't ever see them anymore.
No, because I need some lugs, and I was trying to find some lugs, and I really had to kind of dig deep to find lugs. Even on eBay, I couldn't really get like exactly what I needed. So I think they might have went out of business.
Yeah, I mean, I can look around for you too, but who knows?
Awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I saw.
I need like 8 lugs for the floor tom and the whole rig. They have these kind of complex rigs because they're wood hoops.
Yeah.
in the wood hoops, they have this groove that only the AOT things fit in. You can't get like the Gibraltar ones or kind of generic ones
Right.
to substitute. You got to get the real thing.
Hey, I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna just step out. This ring light is just right in my eyes. I can't.
I'm a pork pie guy. I've been pork pie for probably the last 15 years, and I don't know what it is, but I just love them. But
I
AOT
would
was
love to
always,
have.
huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead. I would love to have a set of pork pies too. Believe me.
Yeah, they're great. They're a drum you don't see a whole lot of either. But I do follow Bill, the owner, on Facebook, and he's always making new snares, and they just look so nice.
Hell
I'm
yeah,
always
dude.
drooling every time I see one.
No, man, I'm telling you that AOT snare that I have is probably the best snare I've ever had. This one I have now, this DW that's on here, I let I have the AOT, but I don't really use it right now, and I have this DW, and it's okay, but it's I just have kind of gotten used to it. But I would love to use the AOT one too, and then maybe have one new one, like one of those. I think it's a Ludwig, supersonic, or I mean, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a killer looking drum.
Mm-hmm.
You
Are
know,
those? Oh, I'm loud. Are those the really inexpensive ones that are super deep?
I don't think they're that cheap. I mean, what do you? Because I think it's like $6.99.
No, they did a run of, I think they're like $200 new, but they're like 14 by 8 or 9, and they got the blue and olive badge. But yeah, dude, I think I can't remember what they're called, but it's something kind of similar.
Was it? Yeah, because like what I really used to like, and I could find all the time cheap, and now you can't find them cheap, is the Acrolite.
Yeah, dude,
Acrolite.
I got my black light back there. I don't know if you
Oh
can
yeah, bro.
see it in the corner.
Yes,
But
I can. I would
yeah,
love to have one of those.
dude, there's one at my local shop that's it's a 14 by 8, and they want like $700 for it. It's yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Like you get these dirt cheap. I think I found this on the floor at Guitar Center for $60.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
And
that was good. So you beat me because I found them at the Guitar Center one time, and it was $125. And I used that record or that snare on every Limp record.
dude, I tripped on that one. It was literally on the floor. Like I'm like, they had it listed for 60, and I'm like, I don't know. Like the wires are kind of beat. Like, can you do $50? And they're like, I don't think anyone at Guitar Center actually cares. they're like, just fucking, you can just have it. It's fine. But
What kind of cymbals you got there?
Well, these are Sabian. I
The
can't remember
hi-hats?
which ones they are. Yeah, they're real thick. I think they're some heavy metal ones. I kind of like these. This is a Sabian. This is a HHX Legacy 18. This is a Zildjian, a Z light power ride, and then this is modeled after a HHX, like a Sabian HHX. But my bro got it for me, and he like went through some kind of communications with these people in China, bro. He got it for $100, and I'm telling you right now, it sounds maybe even a little bit better than the real HHX.
Interesting. I wonder why.
They just figured it out. There's
Yeah.
almost nothing, you can get like he also got me a pair of Doc Martens, and they're fake, and they're exact to Doc Martens. Like they're like, he's getting these things made called Chibsons, which are Chinese Gibsons, right? So like Les Pauls, and he gave me one, and you can't tell the difference.
Wow.
well, dude, I mean, Doc Martens right now it's owned by Skechers anyway, so you're still getting fake Doc Martens even when you buy real Doc Martens anyway. So kind of, I guess it all doesn't matter. But
Yeah, it's easy to get that shit now, that knockoff shit, and I don't know, like because like those little packs that they sell, like the Zildjian ZBTs, they're like really terrible sounding.
Yep.
Or like for like a little beginner kit or something, they throw them in there with the package, but they're terrible. And I have like a whole set of them that came with this little trap kit that I bought, and they're terrible, and I kind of wouldn't even try to put them on eBay or anything like that to sell them because they're so bad. But these that he got me made, I have another one. I have an 18 too. This is a 20. So what I'd really like to have is a 19 HHX and this 20 HHX. And
Hmm.
I think I'd like to actually get a Paiste ride, like a maybe like a 2002 or something, like kind of classic. But this is what I have right now. You know, you break cymbals and they're like astronomically expensive these days. So it's not just like
It's
as
nuts.
easy as it used to be to go and, you know, and to break something. So these I've had for a while. I have like kind of like a, you know, spare set of everything. I have some Zildjian new beat hi-hats, which I kind of think are pretty classic, and I dig those. And a lot of times I'll use like a Zildjian classic medium ride for a crash 20 on this side. And I like to have like one really fast crash over here. So like I don't really like a 16. It's a little small and I miss it a lot. So I have to get like an 18 that that um is quick. And I like them kind of trashy. I like kind of trashy trash can sounding crashes. I don't like the real pure kind of beautiful sounding ones. I don't
Hmm.
know. I kind of use them in this way of like where I like to get a certain effect out of them, real washy effect, and take up a lot of space, you know. And you can hit them hard, you can hit them light, you can kind of get a couple things with them.
Is that something
Sometimes,
you kind of picked up with Limp, playing with Limp?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just, you know, like that's what I was thinking. I went back yesterday and I listened to all three records, which I haven't done in a really long time, and I played along with them, right? And I was like, wow, man, this is kind of fun, you know. But I realized like all my little tricks that I did, I had like a little small bag of tricks, you know, and I kind of just repeated, you know, myself a lot, and I kind of came up with like a way to like, um, you know, use these for like big choruses, and then if I wanted to go a little bit bigger, I'd go over here to this one, you know, and like, um, yeah, I just was working it, man. I was working those things back then.
For sure.
Now I'm a little bit more laid back now. I don't try to do like so much, you know, in every song now. And I played along yesterday and I was like, holy shit, man, I kind of can't even do some of this shit right now. Like, so it was cool. It was cool. And I realized, you know, I really like that guitarted record a lot.
Hmm.
Like the songs, and that's probably my favorite one. And I realized like man, we were really like having fun making those songs,
For
and
sure.
everybody coming up with their parts, you know, and it was super fun to play those. I can't find the Fine Girl one. I can find it, but it's not in tracks. It's like a whole, it's like a stream of the whole EP.
That's how I found it too.
Yeah, it's too bad. But so anyway, I like that Fine Girl one too, because that's like in between um, Pop and Disorderly and Guitarded.
You know, it's funny with the fine girl is I noticed that he doesn't do the hiccup with his voice when he says personality on the demo
Ah,
version. And I'm like, dude, like that was so funny. Is I think the first time I heard that, that's like what stood out was him doing that little like personality. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's kind of reminded me of like some old like 50s kind of style music. But the harmonies he was doing were always great, you know,
yeah,
either
yeah.
way. And I was actually gonna say that, man, it's funny is going back, I think that all the vocal harmonies happening kind of kept me from hearing the drums, you know, back when that album came out the way that I hear them now. I think I've listened to it so much that I'm kind of like, you know, focusing more on the drum parts, which are interesting. We'll definitely get into that. But dude, if you don't mind, I would like to start maybe around like what was like the first kit you got, and how old were you when you started getting into it?
Well, I remember my best friend, his parents rented him a drum set, and it was a Pearl export, and I think he played it like one time. And so it was just sitting at his house, and I would go over there and I would play it, and I was really into that. I was into like the Subhumans, Crass, and I was about 14. I think I was about 14 years old, and we had like a turntable, and so I would put on that Crass record and kind of turn it as loud as I could, and try to do all that kind of snare stuff that he did. And for me at that time, I was like, dude, this is so cool. This is kind of crazy complex. But it was a Pearl export. It was rented from a little music store in my town. And then like you had to rent it for 3 months. So I got to play on his for like 3 months. And then I begged uh, to have a drum set for that Christmas or my birthday. I actually can't remember which one it was, but I would always go. Like there was like we had like an avenue that we all hung out on. We skated on and everything like that. And so every day you'd go by this music store and I would see these like I don't know, I guess you'd say like maybe mahogany or something like that. They had like a red stain on them and they were pearl exports. This place had pearl, pearl, pearl. That's all they had, right? So they were in the window and I just dreamed of it every day. And then so I got that for my birthday or Christmas. I can't remember which one. And then I had that one for like years and years and years. And then my friend, he like went Buddhist and he got rid of all his material possessions and he gave me a drum set and it was another pearl export. So
Stack
so,
'em.
so
I
it
had
was
one too.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
did. Right?
But the thing was, is I didn't realize that there was like better shit out there. You know, I mean, you see like I would see bands come through. Um, they would have like Sonar and maybe some Gretsch or something like that. And like for me, the price of like $1,000 or something was not really doable. I think the pearls were like $5.99 or something like that, right? So I had those two pearls, and the thing is I always really detuned them. So they're like, you know, like kind of like how Trey Cool tunes his drums. They're just like almost at the very lowest that they can go before they're just like they're the lugs are not even on.
Right.
So I always did that, and so you kind of I wasn't like really going for tone. I never was really going for tone. I was going for thud.
Yep. When we talked to Rhino, who like tour managing text for Bill Stevenson, that's what he's like. Bill wants his drums to sound like 3 bass drums. Just really low and dead. Yeah, it's definitely serving. And like around how old were you when you started?
I was 14.
14. Good age to
Let
start.
me just tell you one thing about
Yeah.
Bill. So Limp got to do like a 7-week long tour with Less Than Jake and All, and Good Riddance was on it for like I think like 5 of the weeks or something. I don't think they were on for the whole time. They had another tour set up like in Europe or something. So I got to watch Bill every night, right? And one night we played at a place and Bug, who was Bill's old guy, his old tech, he came up to me and he goes, "There's no room for your drums tonight." We were opening, you know, it's like, "There's no rooms for your drums tonight. You can play Bill's," right? And so I was like, oh, that's amazing. Okay. You know, but I mean, everyone sets their stuff up differently. So like even like a quarter inch of something moved, that could fuck you up.
Oh,
Or,
Bill's unique setup has been mentioned many a time, and Matt's actually played his kit before, and yeah, so have you.
dude,
So
I played it that night, dude. I can't remember where we were. I think we were actually in like Chico, California, or Reno. I can't remember which one it was, but dude, I played his drums and they were almost perfect for me the way they were set up. And like hitting those, I realized, oh my God, like these sound so amazing. And it was so cool they let me do it. And this was a tour where Good Riddance was there, and so they had just done their record with Bill and those guys. And Bill had this thing where he set his drums up on a piece of plywood. So every night they were already set up. They just carried them. Like 4 guys carried the kit onto the stage, put it on there. He never like I don't think they ever broke it down. I think they put it away like that and everything. And Sean Sellers did the same thing. So he had a piece of plywood and his drums were on it. And so that was pretty cool. But that's something I remember about it. But yeah, I got to play Bill's set and they were like butter, man. Like they were, and you know, I loved Bill Stevenson. So he was like a guy I worship. So I always watch him and stuff. And you know, he always he always spray painted his drums primer gray back then. This was before he got
Yeah,
like
the Battleship gray.
the Battleship gray.
Yeah.
And so, and then for one Limp, when we did the Guitarded thing, I took off those wraps on those exports, and I spray painted each drum like a different color. One was like orange, one was green. You know, like we were just rigging it, bro. Because at that time, I still had no money, right? Like I just was like hand to mouth. You know, like I never even kind of dreamed of like, man, I really want to like get this amazing set until I got the AR, which was it was about $4,000, and I got that in maybe 1998 or 1999, right? So the first two Limp records I did on, believe it or not, Pearl Exports, and Ryan Green, he could just make anything sound good, so he made those sound like they weren't Pearl Exports.
Yeah, if there's a signal, he can make it sound good.
Yep.
Well, you had also mentioned that it was guitared, that you thought some of the stuff might have been replaced, or no? Was that?
I'm nearly positive. Yeah. And
Well,
that's the funny thing about that is that we specifically went, like, they had one studio and then they were building another studio. So this was in between when that studio was done and the other one was gone. And so Ryan said, well, we got a little interim. We have to go record someplace else. So this place in Katati, damn, I can't even remember the name of it right now. But we went there and they had like this cool drum room. And they had all these kind of rocks and stuff in the back. And he like put mics up in the rocks to get like this kind of back shit off of it. And then so we got the drums, and you can tell the difference because Kevin Army mixed the Fine Girl EP, and those are like Fine Girls on there, and like a couple other ones from those guitared sessions. But Kevin mixed them, so you can kind of tell what Kevin did because he didn't replace any sounds. And then when Guitarded came out, you could kind of tell that some of the sounds were replaced.
Well, going back and listen to Pop and Disorderly and then Guitarded, like even when it was your natural drum sound, like those toms are thunderous on the first record.
Bro, I know.
It's crazy to think that those were exports, which I mean, I think it goes to prove, like, I love gear nerding out and stuff like that. But dude, if you tune drums well and you put decent heads on them, you can get a good sound. Cymbals are always the thing of like, you know, you can put some tape on them here and there, but you can't really, you can't make it better. So what were any bands before Limp?
Oh, really just, well, I played in a band called the Surrogate Brains, and we started when I was about 15. So that was like the first thing I ever did. And then my friend, my bro that got me these cymbals, actually, he was like our voice. And he was 2 years older than us. So when I was 15, he was 17. And he hooked us. He would go to Gilman. He would go to shows and stuff. And so he set us up at Gilman, and we played at Gilman. And so we practiced at my aunt's house, right? And like, dude, when I think about it now, like it must have driven her so crazy. But without her, I would never even still be playing drums. She let me just be loud and all this shit. She had this office in the back, and we practiced there. But so I had a 5-year-old cousin, and like he would come in to the jam room with us, and he would we had this song called Greg's Metal Song, and he would just scream the whole time while we were playing this fake metal, and like really trying, you know, like it was cheesy. But then we get a show at Gilman, and that guy that ran Gilman and ran Maximum Rock and Roll, Tim Yohannan, he saw my little cousin up there, and he heard us play, and he goes, "That was fucking awesome." And so so we got to go back to Gilman, and we got to do several kind of really killer shows. And like, for example, we played the last Operation Ivy show, right? Like
in 87? Or no?
It must, I think it might
80, 89.
89.
89,
88.
Because I graduated in 89, but I can't remember all those. You know, I can't remember exactly when it was. But
so to keep it, sorry for interrupting, just to keep a timeline, how old are you at this point with like the Gilman and Surrogate Brains?
Like
roughly
15, 16.
Oh, okay. 17. So this is like right off the bat.
Right off the bat, dude. I had 3 beats. That's all I had. So we had to make it work.
It's funny, man. When you sent me this, it's Surrogate Brains, right?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, what's the song? America
the Machine.
America the Machine. That's the one that when you sent me and I listened to it, that kick drum Like you've got a very heavy foot in a good way, but that was, I listened to all those songs you sent me, but that was the one where I started hearing, this is where the stuff that made it your drumming style that went into Limp, this is where it all started.
For sure.
Like it definitely
Yeah.
was like clear as day, and I really enjoyed hearing that. So thanks for sending that stuff over for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks for listening.
My buddy, his name's Deedle. He's actually the one of the guys who made Filmage. We've been in a band together for the last 6 years. I remember he burned me a CD back in '97, and it had Far Away on it, and I was like, wow, this drummer, that's what I want to. I mean, I was already playing, but I was like, I want to play hard like that. Like you're so solid, and talking about the heavy foot and everything. And every time I hear that song, it just takes me back to when I was 17, and I hate that I didn't have your full album back then. It was kind of hard to get stuff, you know, at that point. And so I got your albums later in life, but that song Far Away just takes me right back. You know how songs always take me to a certain place. And
for sure.
but it always reminded me of Brackett. Zach, is that his name? Zach, the drummer of Brackett.
Oh no, Zach's the bassist.
I'm sorry.
Um, yeah.
I,
Now
I,
I just
I
have
knew
a
I'd
block.
mess it up.
Matt,
Ray.
we'll fix it in post.
Ray,
Matt.
but no, it's fine. I'm fine with mistakes. But
I'm just joking.
But bands like Bracket were very kind of mysterious to me back then too, as well as Limp. Like I didn't know their names, I didn't know what anyone looked like, which I really loved because the mysteriousness of it was part of the whole thing. But your drumming styles reminded me of each other,
Man,
and I really like it.
I think his name's Ray. And
Yeah, Ray,
dude,
right.
Ray was like so clean and like he was solid, dude. Like I don't know, man. I don't know how I think it's because those guys had played for so long together and they were like really young.
Right.
That they locked in. They were like one of the tightest bands.
Oh, that
you could
Live and
ever
a Dive
see.
album. Oh, so good.
Yeah, and he tuned his shit so good. And I think he had Pearl like Master Series or something. He had some good pearls. I remember that.
Yeah, but I just realized that how similar you guys play their snare rolls are very hard, and like you can hear everything, and just very tight, how you play it, and I tried to emulate that growing up. So I always appreciated your drumming style. I'm 45 this month, and I was 17 whenever I first heard Limp, so it's been a while.
Oh, that's cool, man. Happy birthday.
Almost.
So, dude, I got to ask, how did you? So, if I remember correctly, was it Gavin from Dance Hall?
Mm-hmm.
Played on the first. How did you become like the member? And also, Matt, real quick to go on what you're saying, I always based what I thought everyone looked like after the album work. So I saw Poppin' Disorderly, and I gotta say, I'm a little bummed you're not a cartoon in real life. I feel cheated. So we'll animate you afterwards. Sorry, I'm an asshole.
Sure,
Anyways,
sure it's easy.
The real question I asked, how did you like meet all the dudes and become members?
I was like here. I actually did play in one other band, but it was we were trying to be pop, and it was called Field Day. And so,
is that with Doug Carrion?
No, but it was because we named it after the Dag Nasty record, which we love.
Oh, okay.
We just kind of, it was like an homage to those guys. I loved Field Day, that record.
Okay, gotcha.
That drummer is sick, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so I did that for a while, and then I had a girlfriend, and she moved to LA, and I decided, well, I'm gonna move to LA with her. And so I packed up the drums. I had a '65 Mustang, and I packed up the drums. Or actually, that's kind of bullshit because I had a U-Haul and I towed the Mustang. But anyway, so I packed up and I moved there, and I was like gonna try to meet up with some people because I wanted to be a drummer, So I kind of realized, oh shit, I wanna really do this. And I had like this mentor that like made me learn how to play to the metronome. And he says you have to do it for an hour every day. So maybe for like 2 years, 3 years, I played every day for an hour to the metronome. I mean, usually more because I really liked it. I really grew to love it. So I was really into the metronome. So then I moved to LA. I kind of tried to play with a few people. It didn't work. And like I was there for about 6 months. And I got a call from my friend Sanita. She was in a band called Moist with the girl that was the drummer for the Groovy Ghoulies, right? Her name's Wendy. And so Wendy and Sanita, they got a hold of me and they were going, dude, these guys we played with last night, they need a drummer and you should really do this, right? So there was only tapes back then, we had cassettes. So I think somehow somebody sent me like a cassette. I listened to it. I was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah. So I drove up to like the Bay Area where these guys live, and then I just tried out. And they had already tried out, like Limp had already tried out like 10 guys, and they never really dug any of them. So then the guy that played guitar on the Pop and Disorderly, Billy, like with him and me, you could really like change our record collections and there'd only be a few things different. So what we were really into back then was like the Doughboys, the Descendants, all real pop punk, really poppy punk, right? So I started playing with these guys and I just did what I would do for anything. And I kind of based it off of the stuff that they had on the demo, right? Which was really cool, clever, and unique, but it wasn't Gavin yet. Gavin played on like this thing, this 7-inch thing, right? So like, I had heard the first demo, which was with the first drummer Pig, and like Pig was like he wasn't playing drums very long, but for whatever reason he came up with super unique stuff, and it was kind of cool, and it was almost impossible for me to do some of it, even though I was like, dude, I really like that, but it's really weird. So I had to kind of learned it. Then they played like new songs, like all the other songs that they had. And on almost every one, I could kind of get it, right? Like even though they were kind of a little bit, they were like I would say they were in the vein of pop punk and everything like that, but they were unique. They weren't like everyone else. Mm-hmm. So I really liked it, and we just kept playing and we kept playing, that day, and we got along really well. Took like 50 cigarette breaks, and like just talk. And they said, hey, yeah, do you want to be in the band? We really like the way that you play with it, because I had this kind of pop punk sensibility that, that fit really well. And like I said, I played to that metronome all the time, so I had pretty good timing, and I had an idea of how to really, I knew always that a song should kind of start out like kind of maybe, like that's just, I could always grasp like the skeleton of a song and do like a part that moved in between the parts, got big when it was supposed to, got small when it was supposed to, double timed it if I needed to. I just kind of wanted to make it like exactly like what the song was like. I didn't just want to play a beat. I wanted to come up with a creative part that that was unique.
Right. So it's funny too, man, is listening to Surrogate Brains and then hearing you talk about like learning how to play crass and all that stuff. I think a lot of people like they'll hear that someone's in a pop punk band and just assume that like you're like this bubblegum, you know what I mean? Like you only listen to pop punk and stuff. And it's cool because you can definitely hear like a little bit more, like your drumming with pop punk always had a little bit more aggression, at least to my ears, than most people did. And I think that's what really drew me towards Limp was the vocals, the harmonies, but the drumming was like, it was really in your face. But you stayed in the pocket perfectly, but you're also pushing the songs a little bit, which I really appreciated. And if that's not like, maybe a good time to kind of jump into some of the stuff that we spoke about with like specific drum parts. I don't know if am I putting you on, if I'm not putting you on the spots.
No, not at all. Let me just say one thing though.
Yeah.
When we heard like So like when I heard the Screw 32 album, Under the Influence of Bad People, and
It's a
I
good
heard
one.
Mark Mortenson's kick drum, right? And I was like, this guy's gonna do our record, the same guy that did this, right? So like I kind of knew that the kick drum was gonna be in the mix, right? And like I had recorded other things before, but nothing like that. And so it was really like listening to Mark Mortensen where I really realized like, holy shit, like my drums are gonna sound probably pretty good on this thing. And his kick like was like, I mean
Yeah, dude.
that was pretty amazing. I just loved that record, Under the Influence of Bad People.
Oh yeah.
So that was like what you're saying, the kind of aggression and stuff, like I really just I knew it was gonna kind of sound good, and I really loved the way that Mark played, and I was like, man, I'm gonna fucking be crazy on the kick drum too, like I want to get that going.
Well, there's a lot like in Atom Bomb, that choice to just ride the toms throughout all the verses it's interesting, man. Like I think a lot of people would have gone doom, 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 bah, doom, doom, but you just kept it straight toms. And I've noticed throughout listening to all the albums, because I went back to and listened to them pretty much front to back, all three of them, and you have a really good ear for dropping the drums out or just doing like ride patterns, and like you really like. I think for how old you were, the maturity of like letting things breathe, like you had a good grasp at that. I think a lot of us didn't pick up on that until much later in life. So, dude, like, good, good for you, because
Thank
that
you.
definitely was not, not something we could do. Like, there's like the kick pattern in Clear Color, like
Yeah.
how it starts off. It's a really like mellow, almost like ska, and that bass drum just comes in and it just punches you right in the gut, and it counterbalanced it so well. Was that something that like, did you just hear that pattern and be like, I got to do this, or was it like a intentional choice? Or
I think what it is, I was kind of listening to it, and I think like a lot of times what I do is I kind of play like the vocal melody with my foot. Okay,
yep,
so that's kind of what I gathered when I kind of really re-listened to that. So if you listen to, the vocal melody and you listen to the kick, I'm like trying to sing from back there, but with my foot. Like I think maybe my foot was maybe the strongest, most consistent thing that I had back then. So I really used it a lot. And I liked things to since we weren't going to the super double time kind of no effects real punk beat, we never really had songs that had that that type of opening for that type of thing. We had they were aggressive kind of songs, but they were slower, a little bit slower. So I never could do the I never could do that. Except I kind of did it on a couple songs later on Fine Girl, The Critic. And I think those are pretty much the only two. But those are more like the Bad Religion fast beat like that double time punk rock beat. But so I know that I was trying to sing with the kick drum, and if you listen like to a lot of the songs like I've been kind of listening to, I'm always trying to accent with the kick with like a vocal line, and then when it gets big in the chorus, I think the chorus should be bigger a lot of times, a lot of times. But if I'm already pretty big on what I'm doing, then I have to go super big. It has to be with some cymbals, and it has to be with even more kick, just fucking constant. And so I think that's kind of trying to drive it like what the bass rhythm would be. Like boom, 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 boom. Like, like just fucking just consistently, uh hitting with that and that kind of idea so that these guitars could just, really just rock, dude. And we could just rock. And it's like I did a lot with cymbals. I would and I like to just, I go back and forth to the cymbals. Like I said, one's always smaller than the other one usually. So that would be like a thing where I knew I could take it up even one more notch. But it was always with the vocals. And like I can hear that now that I was trying to do the melody with my foot. If that
Yeah,
answers your question.
I think that's really interesting. You know, every drummer learns differently, and they have a different experience when working with other people. And you know, like my experiences are very similar to yours. Everything was very vocal driven for me too, and you know, and I was in bands similar to yours, very poppy, you know, very kind of aggressive like that as well. And it really worked for me later in life in other bands too. It taught me. It taught me how to hear music a little bit differently and to play to the vocals like you were saying. And I think that's just really neat. And it kind of helped me too because I did some stuff for Down by Law, the last record, and I didn't get any vocals. They like sent everything to me, no vocals, and I kind of panicked and I had to just come up with stuff, you know, and it ended up working. But I think all that
That's awesome.
experience really helped me mature and get to the point where I could do something like that. So I really like how you look at it.
Yeah, thanks. That's
Yeah.
cool. I love them by law.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm like, how did this happen?
I know.
I,
Oh,
I
Like
got a show with
surreal.
them in April.
you deserve it, man. Come on,
Ah,
take your credit. You're a good
this isn't
drummer,
about
man.
me. I was just
That's
saying,
surreal, dude. That's
I was
awesome.
I was just making a point that, you know, all of that helped me to be able to pull this off and record this album and even without vocals, you know. So,
Yeah. I mean, well, because sometimes the vocals weren't done on some
yeah.
of this shit. He would be finishing it kind of in the studio. So it would just sometimes it would just kind of match up just based on the little bit that I had heard or whatever. But a lot of times they were finishing the vocals all the way, through the literal last part of the recording process.
Mhm. Yep.
Didn't have
Well,
the words. They're like because they're waiting to see what everything else sounds like, and then putting their whole finishing touch on it, which is totally understandable.
For
when we
You
sure.
have
talked
to
to
wait.
Dave Mello, he was saying that Jesse Michaels would like just pull like this switch or add a ton more syllables or was constantly changing the lyrics like right up until he went in the booth to do that. And I don't know, man, I wouldn't say sang, but did vocals in a few bands. And definitely like once you hear everything kind of put together, you realize that maybe a bass part's busier. So you need to remove some syllables or add some here and there. And again, man, it's that growth as a musician and learning like how to let stuff breathe. I do want to continue to punish you for about another 45 minutes about drum parts, and then we'll let you
Go for it.
talk for like five.
Uh,
So bag lunch, there's two spots that I wanted to highlight. The first, I guess we'll go backwards here. The first one is the ride roll at the end. And how they're letting the guitar notes ring out. I think most people would have done the roll and then like a little and crashed, but I thought that was cool how you just really just you didn't accent any of those guitar notes. You just kept going on that ride cymbal. And I guess most of these, like some of this stuff isn't really how would you come up with that? More of like just noticing these little things and more of like kind of complimenting you on again on how
yeah.
to like let it breathe. The one thing I do want to say is at it was around like the 45 mark of the same song is I had always thought you were just dun, 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 just all toms. I listened back to it and you're playing closed hi-hat and somehow rolling off of your tom. Like that had to have been like a pretty clear decision, right? Of like not just going full toms and like what was that more of just again a letting things breathe a little bit or
Well, I had like I said, I only had about like 5 or 6 real tricks up my sleeve, and so I would just kind of move them around on the drum. So if I was doing like the first part is like dun 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 dun, dun right, I'm going off the toms, and so instead of going off the toms for the second verse, I kind of like to do something different in the little bit different in the second verse maybe, so it kind of has like a thoughtfulness, kind of a vibe to it. Like, yeah, no, I'm not just you know uh, going by the numbers here. I want to do something cool. So I moved it from the floor tom over to the hi hat, but I kept the left hand on the rack tom, right? So I was just basically just switched it from the floor tom to the hi hat, and I thought it was cool. When I heard it, I was like, well, that kind of works, right? Because it kind of gave it like a little, I don't know about a shuffle, but like an accent there where it needed one because it was kind of going along with the rhythm, right? Because when we talked about that rhythm, like Phil had made that rhythm, and Doug was like, dude, this sounds like a mixture between Onyx And damn it, I can't remember the other thing, but remember that song,
Slam?
the Onyx, huh?
Was it Slam?
Slam, right? And so it was Doug was like, dude, that sounds like Onyx, mixed with, damn it, I wish I could remember the other thing. But so we just knew we wanted it to be like, Slam, like I wanted it to be, I wanted to fucking rock that one, So I like came in big on it, and then I just took everything back a little bit from that big intro, and I did the first verse on the floor tom, then I did the second one on the snare, on the hi-hat, and and it's just like this. They're like blocks, like I had like blocks, and I would be like, okay, I'm gonna use this block over here now, and like I'm gonna move it to the floor tom, I'm gonna keep this, I know I have to hit, like I just kind of, I liked my part to be as kind of inspired as what I thought the song was.
It was very musical, like style of drumming for sure.
Thank you. That's kind of what I was trying to do. I was trying to do like a little bit more of a musical style rather than just like a straight beat style.
Well, again, man, at that age, I think I can't speak for Matt, but I mean, I was just trying to just play just as fast and aggressive. So to be that mindful at that age, that's fucking rad, dude. So last one, and then we'll move on from specific parts. Matt, are you still there? I'm sorry.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure you hadn't fallen asleep from me talking.
No, see, so Christian has like the more like pointed questions, and he does like his research, and I'm just like color commentary. I'm like, yeah. Speaking of that,
right on. So, well, cool. I just like to Matt talk because so Zoom will like shift the cameras to whoever's talking. So it's just nice to see Matt's beautiful smile every once in a while.
Yeah. I might snore, and then it cuts to me, and my eyes are closed. No.
So, all right, enough joking around until we joke around more. 3 little words. This is a very like this is a question. So after he says 3 little words, it rides out for a little bit, and then you change the kick pattern to 3 hits in a row. I know I set it up and I say same question every time. Was that intentional to like match up with that? Or did you just...
Yeah, because, when he goes, everything was fine with right? Dun, 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 3 little words, right? Like I'm going along with the vocal melody to kind of keep it, like a little bit, not just, I've got the ride going, and it needed a little bit more. So I just added that with the vocals.
What I thought was cool is it's like, everything is fine with 3 little words. It was like slightly after he did it.
Like a call and response.
Dude, exactly. And I thought that was like, this is the nerdy stuff my brain picks up on is a choice to not do it as he was saying 3 little, because it would have been 4.
Well, yeah, but if I think if I did it like everything, right? So that would be in the middle of the measure instead of, so like it kind of inspired me to do it at the end where it made sense, like rhythmically for me, right? Like, cause that's where I think I would have placed it, like in the beat. And so it was based off of the vocal thing, but it just came after because that's where it made sense to me in the rhythm, in the measure. Because if I would have done it right where he did it, I think I would have had to do more in the part where I did it because it would have sort of stopped the rhythm in this weird spot rather than finished it and then kept it strong, right? So it's like he does his, and then I do my 3, and then boom, we start over. Then we do it again.
Yeah, like it's almost like that call and response thing was. I can't believe everyone. A lot of drummers are probably gonna hate me for this. Was it Bonham that would do like a snare drum roll and then call and response with his feet, the double bass, or was that Moon?
Well, they both kind of did it, but I remember when I watched the making of Who's Next, Roger Daltrey's talking about, like, listen to how Keith Moon plays. When I'm singing, he's doing all this crazy shit. And as soon as I stop, he stopped. Right. So like, I think sometimes it's in response. A lot of times I think it's in response to the vocals. But Keith Moon would do it right when he was doing it, like Baba O'Reilly, right? Like just listen to that one and he's playing the drums along to the vocals. And when you listen to Bonham, they are doing the call and response thing, and it's kind of more like a blues thing in Zeppelin, right? Because the blues is always like, I miss my baby. And then, they come back again to go, I miss my baby, right? They kind of just repeat.
Right.
Like they often do things twice in the blues, whereas the Who was like this fucking this train of energy that everyone had, like this energy. But I think they're still both going along with like the vocals.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Cool, man. That was good. For once, you stumped me.
It's always funny watching Keith Moon play. It's just I don't. Does he even have hi-hats? I think he just rides. Okay, I see him ride that cymbal a lot, and then he's just all over the place. But it sounds good. Like I could never play like that. Like to me, it would not sound right. But the way he does it in that band is it's so cool. Like it just works. And
yeah, and I think he tunes his stuff up pretty high. So it's like, when you tune him lower, you get no bounce.
Right.
So everything you do is like, no, I want to do this. Like I'm building like a house here. I'm not like when you hear Keith Moon, like you listen to his drums. I mean, I think a lot of times back then people had like school band. And so you were learning like I had a friend that was in school band, and he was the best drummer I ever knew in my life. And he loved Keith Moon, and his name's Kevin Erickson. But the thing is that I think a lot of things would be a lot easier if you tuned your drums up to where your drums helped you with what you were doing.
Right.
So when Keith Moon played, right, like he had bounce. And when John Bonham played, like who I tried to copy with my sound a lot, and even with my kit, right, 24-inch kick. I think he had a 14 though, but then, I have 13, 16, 18. And he tuned them lower, but they were up a little bit higher, and they weren't as low as like mine, for example, I tuned mine lower, but Keith Moon's were up very high. And so that's why it's kind of hard to play like him, is because unless you have your stuff tuned like him, and I don't think every shot I do on the snare is a rim shot for the most part.
Right.
But I think if I had learned the right way, I wouldn't have had to do that, and I could do that when I really needed to, right? So that would be even like another level of what I could go up. But I think Keith just he kind of hit it right in the middle, and he had all that bounce on them, and that was back then when just drums were made really well, and they all sounded amazing, and the analog microphones picked up everything really big and perfectly, and so yeah, I just think that's probably why we can't play exactly like him, is because he was fucking going for it. He was like, "There you go, okay, just do your thing, bro."
Yeah.
Well, that was like Stuart Copeland had an interesting thing. I watched an interview with him recently where like he says the same thing, where like I think probably more with the Police, but if his toms were tuned down super low, they wouldn't cut through the mix. So he started tuning his shit up really high just so you could hear it throughout the songs. And you definitely hear that in some punk rock. I think like maybe busier, thrashier stuff where like the toms kind of fall into the mix. And I think with what you were doing with Limp, those heavy fat toms worked really well. But then Matt, like the Other, right?
I was going to say The Other is a good example.
Like those toms they're pitched up. Like I think those were like perfect notes and
perfectly pitched. Yeah.
And if they were those dead fat toms with so more of that like proggy punk those guys are playing. So like knowing how to tune your drums to what you're playing is something that like I think isn't thought of a ton.
I saw that same thing with Stuart Copeland.
Oh yeah, dude, it's great. I actually I have that's his. My dad went to see him a couple years ago in concert, and he brought me back a drum head, Stuart Copeland autograph. And it's funny too, dude. Is like I'd kind of always just wrote the Police off before that, and I have to say I'm not a huge fan of the Police, but I love Stuart Copeland. I get to listen to that guy tell stories and play drums. He's just
He's hilarious.
He's so funny. He calls
It
him.
was great.
Yeah, man. So that's
That
I've
was
been
a great interview, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of his drumming lately and trying to like not play the one and do all these weird things. But yeah, he's great at that kind of stuff. So another question is, I think I know the answer to this. And he comes up on the show quite a few times as well. Was Comet Bus an influence for your ride work?
Probably, but
Yeah.
also I think that, because I got the first Crimp Shrine demo, right? Like I got this demo before the 7-inch, and like all I know is that I loved it, and so I always looked up to people, right? Because I was a little bit younger than them, and so I for sure looked up to Aaron, and we played. The Surrogate Brains played a show with them one time in El Sobranti, right, at a party, and I couldn't bring my drums because we only had like a little small car that we took. And I went there, and they were going to play after us, and I kind of just saw him, and I was like, "Hey, man, do you think I could use your drums?" And he's like, "You don't want to use my drums because I don't have a floor tom. I tune them really weird, and you're just not going to be happy back there behind him." And I didn't really know what he meant. And then, but when you listen to him, man, that he had like just a rack tom. He didn't have a floor tom. And it was tuned up so high, and it was so cool the way he worked it. Yeah, dude. I guess I can honestly say he's probably so big of an influence that I probably don't even really realize that, that like where he lets off and I start or something like that. Because I loved Crimp Shrine, and I loved how crazy and unique that he just got in there. He had like an obvious style, like for sure.
I think it's funny too how I think I remember with, like Rat Scabies, how a lot of these styles and the dude, like your friend that you were talking about, I think in the beginning, how or the first drummer for Limp, sometimes that lack of technical know-how, like Rat Scabies would practice on pillows so that you're getting no bounce back. So when he got a kit, he was just hammering the hell out of it. And I think it is funny too how like literally the lack of knowledge and technical ability can sometimes make some of the most interesting drummers.
I think that was all I had going for me was my lack of knowledge. Like I just like
it's crazy how it's beneficial sometimes.
And loving music. And then like the thing was I loved things, and like I loved the Doughboys, for example, in those pop punk days. And I loved the Descendants, right? And so Bill always had that thing that he did on the snare, the real fast thing, right? And like I could never do that because
like he does in My Edge. Yeah, that role.
And so he, like that is just so cool, but I could never do it. So, because I think that it's because my snare is tuned so high and then my toms are tuned so low, I had a hard time transitioning from like the snare to the tom. So maybe like what I did was instead of doing it on the snare, I kind of tried to do some of it on the tom. Right? Like that's because, I was doing a lot of stuff on the toms back then. I was always trying to move around on the toms and get like a rolling rhythm like Bill got with the snare. Right?
Right.
And so, but my snare's tuned really high. These are tuned really low. So sometimes when you're goofy, you can't go back and forth to them. So I kind of had to create like a hybrid style where I did less. I just did kind of more simple rolls on the snare.
Yeah, dude, I actually noticed that listening back to it is you don't do a ton of fills, but you don't need them. I think you wrote the drum parts so well, and you just needed a quick roll as a transition from a verse to a chorus, and how you said you were changing parts of one, you're doing it all in toms, next one it's tom and hi-hat. I think that the parts were just so well written that you didn't really need to do a ton of fills. I think the parts themselves were the indication of the transition that was about to come up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I at one point I actually started listening to the records and writing it down, and I lost track of it. But I mean, there really aren't a ton of fills, and it's just so funny how like so many musicians build these like little legacies from themselves, and I think yours is like just the drum parts are so solid that just fills didn't even fucking matter anymore, which is kind of
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
cool as shit when you think about it, you know?
He's like a drummer that holds the band together. Like, I think that's so important, and that can be lost very easily with a lot of younger drummers too, you know. Hold the band together. Like, you're the glue, you know.
Thanks. Yeah.
Keep
Well,
them on
so
time.
keep them on time, and then like if someone's doing something good, play to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I was listening to the record yesterday, and there's like the song "Passed Out," and it's got like a skippy little kick drum pattern, and it's basically just Sturge's bass pattern, right? Like I'm just do 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 do, right? I'm just doing the same melody with the kick. Then a couple little rolls in there to get it back down to when the vocals come in, so it wasn't kind of too over the top, you know, because when the vocals come in, you gotta go back a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't just unless you're in the chorus. When you're in the chorus, you can be
It's your time to shine.
bombastic. Yeah, you gotta get big. Gotta make sure.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so it's kind of communicating with all three of the other guys, and so so I actually got to play like three things instead of just like one beat or something like that. But later I wanted to be more simple, and I did want to just have like a solid beat, like almost like a not a drum machine, but very consistent, very solid, not a lot of uh, superfluous parts that were just there just to do. I don't know. I wasn't hearing it. By the third record, I was just trying to be like very solid and very simple because we had a great sound guy named Elijah Dowd. And so I knew that I learned that if you kept it more simple, you could hear it better in the audience. That's when I do like sometimes I just know I hit like just one floor tom with the snare and I know it's going to be mixed into the way of like boom. Like if you had a powerful PA, right, which a lot of times, most clubs have a pretty decent PA. And if you have a sound guy that knows your stuff, it's better to be a little bit more simple than to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It comes
Yeah.
across better.
And sometimes less is more, you know.
Less is more.
Especially in like a pop punk band, you don't want to muddy things up, you know. Especially like if the songs are very like, I always go back to Far Away, dun, 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 it's like you don't want to do a whole bunch of stuff in the middle. You want to keep that solid kick, and you want to keep everyone on time, and you don't want to go off, doing all sorts of things, because it just messes everything. To me, it just makes everything so muddy. And being a drummer most of my life, I understand, like playing in clubs or recording, I'm more of a kick and a snare guy because toms never really cut through to me. So I learned to not do a ton of tom stuff. It's like, it's not going to matter so much. It's just going to muddy it up. I'm just going to be solid on the kick and snare and hi-hats, So our experiences shape us, and then we just get in a kind of a groove where we know what works and what doesn't, and that's what we do. And
and you watch other people, you watch how they do it. Like a lot of times we would be opening up for people, and then you'd think, yeah, we were pretty killer. That was pretty good, and then you'd see No Use for a Name come on, and you'd be like, dude.
I just thought of this. I have a VHS tape from '97 where you played with it was Limp, No Use, and Lagwagon. It was in Austin. I wasn't at that show, but my friend went and taped the whole thing, and somehow I ended up with the VHS tape, and I think I had it digitized, so I'll have to send it to you. But
me too.
And the one thing, and I think it was Bag Lunch Christian that you were talking about. Like I'm for sure that I copied that from Dave Ron. Like he would just not hit anything. He would just do like a ride or the hi-hats. And so I think like by that time when Guitarded was being made, we were really inspired by No Use and Lagwagon. Because I saw them every night for 5.5 weeks, like I saw them every night. And that was like, they took us out on our first tour. So I got to watch those guys every night. And then Fine Girl, that EP since that was kind of done at the same time, like there's 2 songs on there that I'm sure that I copied Rory. Like it just like sunk in, like, you know, like just watching it every night. Eventually it just it sunk into me, right? Where like I kind of couldn't get rid of it, and like I really I embraced it, as a matter of fact. And then also we did a tour with Less Than Jake. So when you hear like the song The Critic, I'm pretty sure I'm copying Vinny to
Hmm.
some extent, right? Like to some extent when I'm on the chorus and I'm on the tom and I'm kind of doing the double hit, I'm pretty sure a lot of that stuff kind of comes from just watching Vinny every night. And just Vinny's a great drummer, and he
Sure.
keeps it so simple.
Yeah. What's
And I
kind of cool is, speaking of no use, I play with Matt Riddle now in a band, and I'm
That's
very
what I heard.
spoiled and I'm very intimidated at the same time. So it's such a strange combo.
Dude, I would love to play with Matt.
Dude, it is so fun. It's a completely new experience for me, and I'm still getting used to it.
I hung out with Matt a lot, man. And like he
He's a good
actually,
guy.
you know that song Clear Color, the Limp song?
Um,
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with it. I'm sure Christian probably knows it.
Christian knows it. We were talking about it earlier, but
Yeah.
Matt would play that one with us.
Oh,
Like
nice.
Oh, dude,
once
you
a
can
week.
practically hear his footprint there. Like that's definitely seems like a Ridley bass line for sure.
He's a
Yeah,
great
man.
guy.
But to be honest, that like we never met them before. That song was made way before we ever met Matt or anything like that. But that was so perfect for Matt that when we played live, he'd go, "Hey, let me do the song tonight," you know, and he would come out and do it with us, and it was so cool. And Matt and me, we bonded on Iron Maiden, right? Like,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's who his favorite guy is.
sure.
I think
Harris.
his name is Steve Harris
Yeah.
from Iron Maiden, right? So it's like, believe me, I love Nico McBrain, dude. Like he's one of my favorite drummers ever, and so I love Steve Harris too. So anyway, yeah, Matt Riddle.
But what better to make us sound good than a good bass player?
Oh yeah, our bass player Serge had a really unique style. Like he he had all this kind of different musical experience where he came from like the drum and bugle corps. He actually was like a tuba player in the drum and bugle corps. So I don't know. The way he knew how to kind of compose music, he had a great style about him.
Was he doing finger style for the most part?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, before
Yep.
we get too far from it, man, Dave Mello actually said something that when you were talking a minute ago reminded me of, you know, like trying to, whether you try to or not, like you get that DNA, right? You're around people long enough, you start picking up little idiosyncrasies of their drummings, you work it into yours. But Dave was like, it's so much cooler when you can't play it the way they do,
Yeah.
and you do it wrong, and that's how you make it your own. So sometimes you'll hear a fill and you're like, that was straight up just like stolen, and then you can hear of like, oh, that's influenced by something. And he had a good point of like, dude, when you fuck it up a little bit, and that's how you make it your own, and it just makes it that much cooler. And I just thought that was fucking rad. So, dude, I don't know where to go. Is it, you know, from here? Are you cool? Do you want to talk a little bit about how everything kind of came to an end and what happened, or is that too? Is it
No,
gonna
we can talk about that.
get you emotional, or?
I think no, I don't want to cry. I'm just kidding. But no, but
you're gonna fuck our ratings, dude. This is like this is the interview. We need the tears, Johnny.
This
Come
is
on.
the tearjerker part. Let's see what happened. Okay, so we had a new guitar player, third guy. His name was Dan. Okay, and Dan came from Florida, a great band called Inspection 12. We played with them in Jacksonville one time. And anyway, we wound up meeting him, and when Doug quit, we asked Dan to come and play. Dan came and played, and so Dan kind of had this youthful kind of optimism and joy. And I think at this time we were like a little bit like road worn. We were a little bit disenchanted with things. We just, you know, we all still had to have jobs and everything like that. So you know, we were frustrated. We were probably not getting along that well, to be honest with you. And then we wound up losing our booking agent, right? And so at the same time, we're doing our third record. We're about to do our third record on Honest Dawn, and they didn't like it. They didn't like the demos a lot, and they didn't really get it, right? And so there was like that. We had that going on, and then at the same time, we lost our booking agent. So for me, I think what happened was I just thought, fuck, man, like everything's kind of going against us right now, you know? So it kind of just wound up fizzling out like that. Serge like went back to his job, and so a lot of the third record, it was like me and Phil just practicing. Serge would come to practice for sure. I mean, he wasn't not there, but it was like me and Phil, and we didn't have a guitar player because Dan got homesick and he bailed and he moved back to Jacksonville, so we didn't have a guitar player. So somehow we wound up like asking Billy to just do it, the guy that played on Papa Disorderly, to just come and do it like as like a hired gun or whatever. And so we kind of did that record. We made even like less money on that record than we did on the two before. So like, you know, we thought we would get like a certain amount of money on the first one, a little bit more on the second one, and then a little bit more than that on the third one.
And this is
Well,
the self-titled, right?
yeah.
Okay.
It wound up that they didn't even really like the third one, and they were like, you know, fucking CDs are going like the way of the dinosaurs, so we were gonna give you less money, right? So we were like, you know, so suddenly we almost didn't even really have time to fucking practice to record it. We all worked, you know, um, so there was that happened. We lost our booking agent, which was like probably a bigger deal than we had lost the record label, because we had a great booking agent. So the guy that booked us, he quit. So when he quit, they didn't keep us on the roster. They let people go, right? So, I mean, they even let, I think, No Use for a Name go. But they found somebody pretty quick, obviously, but we didn't even really have any connection. And then at the same time, I was kind of doing double duty. Like I had already started playing in Sam I Am. So that was kind of also starting to create conflicts. And, you know, like a lot of Limp's records were like, not the second one, but the first one, like my buddy Phil, he had like a total, like he was in love with a girl in Japan. So like 3 Words is about that, Far Away is about that. So then we had that going. And then by the third record, Phil was totally writing great songs, and some of them were to do with his, you know, his love interest at the time. And so I think Limp just wound up taking up a lot of our time and our energy. And like I said, we were kind of a little salty with each other, although we love each other all still. At that time, you know, when you're like touring and stuff with people, they're like the first people you see in the morning when you're at your worst mood, you know, especially if you're drinking or whatever the night before. And you wind up, you know, we'd always be, I just have all these visions of like Denny's, you know, like wherever we were, we'd fucking drag ourselves out of the hotel room. We'd go to Denny's and we'd just sit there and be like, oh, fuck, you know, like, and we were just kind of, I wouldn't say over each other, but like definitely not with a lot of joyful optimism at the time. And then all these kind of bad things started happening. So we just kind of let it fizzle out, and we focused on our personal relationships that we had. And we just kind of let it fizzle out. But lately I've actually been trying to get Limp to get back together just for fun, just to kind of see what happens. But we're a little bit far away now, you know, from each other. So it's kind of hard, but maybe this interview will put a little bit of fire, you know, under their asses to,
Well, I'll go ahead and scratch that off my list here of the Limp reunion. So, all right. Well, there's that.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, dude.
I would love
that'd
it,
be
man.
sick.
I was curious, what did Honest Don's not like about it?
I just think they didn't love the music, right? Like because at the time, I think the things that were coming out would be stuff like, pretty sure like Hot Water Music was still really huge. Not that they were on Fat, but I think what they had on Fat. I think Lawrence Arms was on Fat. Um, music was just going into this more kind of like hard
Hmm.
kind of direction, and we seem to be going a little bit softer.
Hmm. I gotcha.
So I
So it
think
was
that was,
Honest Dons who changed, not Limp.
yeah, I guess, but I mean, Honest Dons was just like the subsidiary of Fat, so they get on like they put out the other, they put out J Church, they put out us. Um, so it was kind of already like, well, you didn't really have to be hard to be on Honest Dons, but I just think that they were basing it on maybe record sales.
Hmm.
Like we didn't sell like as many as a lot of people did, and so I think it was a taste thing. They didn't really love it, and I think it was a uh, financial thing where you know, it wasn't going to bring them like $1 million or anything. So
Sure.
I just remember them not really loving it, and but we really liked it. It was like especially me and Phil because, like I said, it was us kind of practicing a lot, and Billy kind of did a lot of his stuff like in the studio. So I think that they thought we were like wasting a little bit of money because we were kind of working it out in the studio. I think that pisses off the brass, if you will, like when you're fucking around in the studio and it's $1,000 a day or whatever it
Hmm.
is, right? So um, and then like I said, at the same time, it we had all these. We didn't really want to totally be gone away from home and to keep suffering and not making a ton of money. Not We did like a headlining tour and it was okay, but it was like a humbling experience. So I think we always had this sweet spot that we really liked, which was like to open up for a bigger package, and like maybe be like in the middle. Like if there was 3 bands or 4 bands, be second or third, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
we
I
loved it.
good.
Good.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I
Go
think
ahead.
I saw you on that run, that headlining run. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
some of it really sucked.
I, it was good.
What did
I we saw you in Philly, so maybe it was a different tour.
No, I think that might have been the tour. Yeah, because we always did kind of okay in Philly.
It
But
was a great show.
thanks, man. Yeah, but
It-
like sometimes like we had to go through like places that we had never really been just because like it was like a little bit. It wasn't. They weren't all huge shows. Like some of them were like like the dance club in Knoxville, Tennessee, or a cafe in some weird city in Florida, or so. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like we definitely when we had to headline, we could do maybe a couple hundred, or something like that. Which I mean, and a couple hundred is great, but sometimes it was less. And so I think after that one, we were like, "Fuck this, man. We're not gonna." Go ahead.
Dude, it was Bigwig. You were playing with Bigwig, but they dropped off on that show. I'm pretty sure. I may have done some things that could have affected my memory between now and then. But I think
No,
that I remember Bigwig was supposed to be on there and they weren't. That was the first time I saw you guys. I think you were playing with Bigwig. We went to see Bigwig. Bigwig didn't show. You guys played, and I was like, "Fuck, this is great." So I found a new band. Maybe again, dude, my timeline could be severely
no,
skewed here.
I think you might be right. It's just like I'm the same way, bro. Like I don't remember like it takes like a lot to kind of like I have like these random memories, but I don't totally. There's just certain things that really stick out, and other things I'm like, oh, did we do that? Like that kind of a thing.
We all can't be Ian MacKaye.
I'm the same
Exactly.
way. All the shows I played all run together. And some people can go, no, that was that show. It was in this city, and so said this, and I'm like, I don't remember. It's you just play
Right.
so many.
And or even if you can't remember, there's another version of where you're putting 3 things together that actually didn't happen together, and like, oh yeah, we did. And they're like, no, that wasn't there. That was in blah blah blah. And usually I have a really good memory with this stuff, but some of the stuff I just don't remember. But I do remember having a really good time on the one tour that we did that was a headlining tour. We had like 2 guys with us, one like road manager and then another guy that was like our merch guy. and just some great times, bro. Like some great times. But back then you'd have a couple beers. You might let a couple shows run into each other. I don't totally remember, you know, everything specifically.
So here's one that I don't think I've asked anybody yet, man. Were you aware that your last show with Limp was your last show, or did you just walk off that stage the last time thinking like, oh, we'll do this again?
I don't even remember the last show.
There you go. So probably a no then, right?
Yeah, probably a no. Probably a no. I think like I said, man, it just wound up like just one thing disappeared, another thing disappeared, something else disappeared, and then you're just like, let's just bow out gracefully, from here, and then it just kind of ended. But I think that our last shows may have been a run of shows that we did up the West Coast to like Seattle, and at that time I think we had like my cousin was playing guitar and Alexis, and I think when we came back it was just like, and also the guy Dan that used to play with us, his band came all the way from Florida and joined us on this Inspection 12, and they opened up, and we did these shows, and to be honest they were okay, but they weren't great. And so then when we came home, like I said, we were all in serious relationships, and I think by leaving sometimes you kind of neglect your relationships, and so you you long kind of to be home, and with that the things keeping you home seemed much more amazing than being out on the road kind of like suffering. So I think we just, all this stuff happened, like the succession of kind of bad things, and then we just were like, yeah, fuck it. But there was never like an official like, okay, we're done, this will be our last show. No, we didn't do that.
Well, I'm sure hoping for that reunion.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I think it would be very well received.
Yeah, you think so?
Absolutely.
I do think so. Well, there's the nostalgia that's built in with it, And
that's what Serge says. Serge says, if we can get on the before I was taking Geritol tour,
yeah,
like where are they now? Kind of one of those things, right? Like a real tour. And so that's kind of what we're kind of, we had a manager back then, our buddy Ben, and so I talked to Ben and I told him, hey, I was trying to get these guys back together, and then like our the band that's kind of like the whole linchpin for us was Dance Hall Crashers, right? Like Phil was in Dance Hall Crashers,
one of my favorites.
So they got back together, and so now everyone's like, well, Dance Hall's doing it. You guys should get back together too, and so for me, I would be happy to get back together just for fun. But it's like 900 miles between me and Phil right now, and Serge is in another part of the Bay Area, and Doug is in the Bay Area, and so we're open to it, but it kind of would have to be like something semi-substantial in order for us to kind of break away from what we already have going on to go and do that. Because and so what the way we're kind of trying to break it down is I was talking to Phil the other day, and I was just saying, we have like whatever 40 songs, but let's just focus on 15. So I think it would probably be up to me to kind of like maybe kind of give these guys like some drum tracks, like record them, kind of like re-record them so they have something to kind of play along with, and communicate a little bit remotely, and then plan to get together somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be one person that kind of takes charge and does this, and I think the drummer is the perfect person. They can't do much without drum tracks, so. But technology.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute my channel for 1 second. Just grab a hoodie real quick. It's freezing down here. I'll be right back.
I'm freezing too.
but the world has gotten so small, and a lot of things I do are online. I'm in a project with Scott Reynolds, and we just we do cover songs, and
I love Scott Reynolds.
yeah, and I'm in a Descendants all cover group, and I haven't even met some of the guys, and we've been playing for 4 years together. So we've been making music and videos, but I haven't even met some of them.
That's cool.
So
How do you do it?
so I have a studio here, and I record my drum tracks here, send them the stems, and then they do their parts. And then a guy down in Brazil who plays guitar for us, he mixes everything. We're called Just Like Them, and it's a Descendants all cover group cover project. And
That's a
same
Scott
thing
Reynolds
with
song, right?
this. So the
Going
Scott
like this.
Reynolds one is called What in Tarnation,
No, yeah,
and
but isn't just like them? That's on. That's a Scott Reynolds song, right? You want to
oh,
be just like them?
yeah. So well, it's a Descendant song. Milo.
Right, right.
There's two versions of that song, I think.
Yeah, no, I know, but I don't know why I'm connecting it to Scott Reynolds because I think he might do some backups on that one. Is that one on what's the Descendants record that came out?
Dun, 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 dun,
96.
dun. Oh, Everything Sucks.
Everything Sucks.
Yeah.
Is it on Everything Sucks?
No, it's not on that one. It's on Christian. Do you know what that song is on?
I wasn't hooked up for this. What are we talking about?
I'm gonna have to Google it here.
Well,
Yeah,
let me.
who is
I want to test my knowledge first. Let me know what song.
It's Just Like Them, Descendant song.
Is that Cool to Be You?
No,
No.
I heard it on the when they remixed and remastered, like the best of.
Yeah, I think that's where I heard it too.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I
But
don't know
that's
what.
awesome, man, that you guys are able to do that. And so I think that, we need to set up something like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I brought that up because I'm doing it, and it's actually easy. If you have some mics you can throw up and record, and then you can I use Reaper. It's just like a simple, I guess they call it a DAW, DAW.
Yeah.
Really
I
easy
have
to
Logic.
use. Yeah,
Yeah, I have
Logic.
Logic. And I
Yeah.
know, like, the way that I mic my drums is I use the Led Zeppelin Glenn Johns method.
Oh yeah, with
And
one behind and one above.
it's one on the side of the floor tom, one above,
Right.
one on the snare, and one on the kick.
Yep. Yep.
And it actually sounds pretty fucking awesome.
It does. I've experimented with that before. I'm more of a close mic kind of guy, mic everything because I can, but
Yeah. No, that's
but
cool.
if you want to do a minimal setup, that's what you do. And you send it to the guys and you inspire them somehow, and then it happens. So I think there's
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way of moving things forward. So I'll be
I think
watching
that's
for
what I'll
it.
have to do. Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I want to do it. And I think most of those other guys want to do it too.
I mean, it'd be perfect
So-
too to do a tour with Dance Hall.
Yeah, for sure. That would actually be amazing.
I saw them in '98, I believe, and they're one of my favorite bands.
That's cool. I love them.
Oh, I'm a big Scott. I always want to say it's a guilty pleasure, but it's not. Like I love them. Like I think they're great. I think guilty pleasures are kind of like you hide what you're listening to, but I don't hide dancehall. I think, oh man, so great, and I was so excited to see them getting back together.
Yeah, that's awesome. They sold the shit out in like one day. Like every show they sold out like so fast.
Take notes.
Well, dude, my buddy Gary, you know Donuts and Glory?
No,
You're
I don't
familiar
know.
with- like they put out one album in like '98 or something like that, and they got back together. And I mean, it wasn't obviously like arenas, but they sold out so quickly they had to add a second date to it. And I think it was like
Awesome.
a couple hundred people, like 100 person club. So like, I'm sure if you guys did it, you just gotta let me know far enough in
wonder.
advance if you're not coming around here so I get a plane ticket.
Christian,
Okay.
could we be getting Limp back together from this podcast?
I mean, I think Limp would probably be getting Limp back together.
I mean,
But-
maybe we may
No,
have gotten
no, I think this
Operation
would be-
Ivy back together. Who knows?
This would be a big. This would be a big factor in that for sure. Because
Should,
you know we dig each other, man. We really like each other, and it would just be so much fun, and it would be like bell bottoms, you know, like bell bottoms went out of style for 30 years, and then they came back, and people are wearing them again. I think it takes
Right.
about 30 years for shit to come back.
Well,
And
they
dude, I
turned into
cannot believe.
Jinkos.
yeah,
But the
Those
good
are
thing
hilarious.
is you guys like each other. See, a lot of
Yeah,
bands they can't say that. So you've
that's
already
true.
got that going for you.
That's true.
well, dude,
Uh,
we are. I think we're rolling up on like an hour and a half right now. I mean, there's definitely like, would you be into coming back,
Oh man,
doing
100%,
doing a follow up real quick?
200% for sure.
Awesome, because I would
a-
love to get into the
after Limp gets back together.
yeah.
That
We
would
can
be even better.
we can talk about the reunion shows a little bit, but I'd love to dive into like the Sam I Am stuff. But Matt, should we take it out how we always do?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Johnny. Here is a little segment we call "Questions from My Kids." Um,
Oh shit.
yeah, dude. Well, one of them is serious. So the past couple of weeks that I've been like re-listening to everything, my oldest, my 13-year-old daughter, has actually become a really big fan, and she was actually she was saying, what was it, Passed Out?
Mhm.
And I walked by a room the other day and I heard her singing it in there. So she wants to know, what does DI stand for?
Divine intervention.
Okay, awesome. And then the next one is from my 7-year-old. After we listened to Holiday Road in the car, she wants to know what it was like to work with the Chipmunks. Were they like easy to get along with, or
Well, I think they wanted to know green M&Ms, so we just had a couple catering issues with them, but for the most part,
Oh, on their rider.
yeah,
oh,
for the
Yeah.
most part, they were cool.
yeah, awesome. I don't know, man. You think that the guy with the big A on his shirt might be a little bit of an asshole, but it's good to hear. That's
Scarlet
awesome,
A.
dude. Well, dude,
That's
I
funny.
really want to say, man, I appreciate your time, and you did so much like leading up to this that you made it really easy to talk to you, man. I think probably myself more than Matt, I kind of suffer with a lot of like, I get really anxious about things, I overthink stuff, but you definitely made it easy for us to talk to you, man. I really appreciate that. And you went above and beyond of sending me stuff. I mean, stuff I've never heard before, so I can listen to Surrogate Brains now and stuff too. So thanks for everything, man. I appreciate it, and definitely look forward to round two.
You're welcome, man. Thank you guys so much, and
Yeah,
I appreciate it more than you know. Thank you.
it was
Yeah,
very nice
bud.
to meet you and get to finally talk to you after all these years of loving your band.
Man, thank you so much.
And
Thank
again,
you.
man, I think that's why a big part, not the only part, but a big part of why Matt and I wanted to do this, and I know I mentioned it to you as well, is like, you know, it's funny to hear you say this person influenced me, this person influenced me. And then so far, most of the people we've talked to is you guys have all influenced us. And I think it's important, the older you get, even with your family, friends, to tell people that they had an impact. And I think, especially in punk and a lot of more like music scenes that don't get as much attention, that like people need their flowers, dude. And I think that you guys really deserve to like, I think this reunion, if it happens, I think that the amount of eyes that should be on you guys that should have been will be there. And I know it sounds like I'm totally just blowing smoke up your ass, but I mean it, man. So thank you for I steal your shit sometimes still. So I appreciate that too, man. And I hope that that there's probably a lot of other drummers out there that look at it the same way. So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That feels so good to hear, man, and I appreciate it so much. And
Hell yeah, dude.
sometimes I just sort of put it behind me, and I never really knew anybody really cared, to be honest with you. So you guys stoked me out. You made me feel like $1,000,000,
Fuck
and
yeah,
I
dude.
appreciate that. I mean,
Absolutely.
thank you. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
yeah. Let's do it again.
Absolutely, Johnny. Thank you so much, man.
Okay, thank you guys. See you
All right,
later.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk soon.
Later.
Bye.
Take it easy.